And talking of that, we're now going to get into some practical advice on how you can avoid greenwash. So some top tips here. The first one is the Competition and Markets Authority's Green Claims Code. So I mentioned that when I was talking about UK regulations. These you can have a look on this on the Competition and Market Authority's website. And I think if you can think about this checklist of 6 points when you're writing something or thinking about making a green claim, then it really will guide you into and help you avoid kind of common pitfalls, really. So be truthful and accurate. Well, that one is obvious, and I hope we would all kind of strive to do that. Be clear and unambiguous. So really, it's best to get away from very vague terms like eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, green, sustainable, because they really don't mean that much. And to be honest, if you're whatever you're producing, it's bound to have some sort of environmental impact. So to say it's completely eco-friendly is always a bit it's never going to be accurate, actually, and it doesn't give your reader or your prospect any balancing information so that they can kind of make that decision for themselves. Then number 3, don't omit or hide important information. So as we saw in that HSBC advert, they certainly did not give the full picture about the environmental impact of their activities. They didn't give the reader enough context to make the right decision. Make comparisons fair and meaningful. So if you're making perhaps a statement about your project being more efficient than something, then make sure that what you're comparing it to is fair and like for like, and that you're very specific about that comparison. Then substantiate your claims, provide robust, credible evidence, and it's even better if that can be backed up by an independent third party. And certainly if you are a B2C company and you're in scope of the EU Green Claims Code, then that's something that you're going to have to start to do anyway. And then consider the full impact of your product from creation to disposal. So there was one interesting advertising example which I didn't put in the time, which was an advert for an electric scooter, and it stated that the scooter was environmentally friendly, and the advert was banned because while the scooter was environmentally friendly in operation, so it was better to use that scooter instead of taking the car, for example. Certainly the manufacture of the scooter itself and probably the disposal of the scooter at end of life were things that would be having an environmental impact. So really that company needed to be a bit more specific about what they were talking about when they were talking about being environmentally friendly. And now to drill down into something which we see a lot, which is about absolute claims versus comparative claims. So on the left, you've got, as I said before, green, environmentally friendly, low emission, sustainable. They are making a suggestion that your product has absolutely no environmental impact whatsoever, which is probably untrue. Whereas if you can use comparative claims as the starting points for your for the claims that you're making, then you'll go. That's a great starting point to kind of go some way and then develop it. So it's lower emissions than, or it's more sustainable than, and then provide those comparisons, provide those statistics, and basically to give as much context as possible, and put yourself in the reader's shoes, put yourself in your customer's shoes, and think, what information do they need for this, so that they can make that informed decision for themselves. And here's some examples. And I realised that the right-hand side, which is the kind of better side in terms of greenwashing, is really horrible. I expect we've got a lot of marketers out here thinking, oh well, this is just really gross, isn't it? We've got the start off with kind of a snappy tagline or a snappy title, and now we've got to go into all this detail. And I agree, it's not great, is it, for our copy? But there are ways and means. So, you could perhaps provide a QR code to some extra information or a web link just so that people have an easily accessible way of getting the information that they need. And again, you'll see I've used that eco-friendly lighting term as something that to avoid. Instead, say it's 40% more efficient than, and provide evidence to if you can. Don't say zero emissions fleet, because it doesn't take into account, for example, the manufacturer of the EV, or in fact the emissions that will be emitted when charging the vehicle. Instead, make it clear that you're talking about the zero emissions from the tailpipe while driving. And then net zero, I'll just mention that one again, because obviously it is such a confusing term for people. It can be very misleading. So provide as much information as possible about what you mean by net zero and what you're going to do to offset residual emissions. And then I realised, what's the time? Yeah, I've probably bored you to death for the past 20 minutes about words and technicalities and minding your big P's and Q's. So I just wanted to lift it slightly and talk about company culture, because actually we can all, authenticity is the new currency. So we are all in a world where increasing scrutiny is perhaps causing us to sugarcoat things, and we're trying to strive for perfection because we're scared of getting things wrong. But actually, people do business with people, and it's very refreshing when you hear from companies that are open to talking about their challenges and admitting their mistakes. For companies that don't fear failure, and those that see marketing as a dialogue with them and their stakeholders, and not just simply a way of kind of getting the megaphone out and glossing over everything. So I just wanted to say that really, from a personal perspective, I do enjoy kind of interacting with brands that set that kind of culture. And it's okay to be human, and it's okay to admit where you are right now. And that's just a screenshot of a sustainability report that a company called Oatly produced in 2018, because they do that sort of thing particularly well. And this is our own impact report, and I'll just hand over to Jo actually, so you can talk a little bit more about what we do.
Yes, so for about the last 5 years, Content Comms has produced voluntarily an impact report looking at any, I suppose, conflicts as could be seen by the outside world about where we sell our services and where we get revenue from. And we've done this. This is a sector-led initiative. It was something that the creative sector made a commitment to, or certain companies did in the creative sector. And we were one of the first signatories to that, and our report was the output. And actually this report has driven changes in behaviour, both from ourselves, and it's inspired clients to also commit to being more open, more transparent about their own businesses. And, you know, we're a tiny business, we're a tiny service-based business, excuse me, and yet we still make this commitment year on year to truth, openness and transparency. And actually you can see on the screenshot in front of you on the right hand that we've declared where in our previous report for the previous financial year, where we had 0.6% of our revenues during that year from a carbon intensive industry. And that was actually because we work with a FTSE listed business. Somebody who used to work for that business is actually on this webinar. I can see that. And 0.6% of our revenue came from a business that was making concrete products. And the reason that I feel comfortable about that as the leader in this business, and I'm happy to declare that, I'm happy to be open about it, is because actually that company, beyond anything else, was one of the most committed businesses I have ever come across to sustainability and to deepening sustainability. And I feel that our work with them was a force for good, and that actually what they were doing in their business was a force for good. in driving decarbonisation and the reduction of raw materials in their business. But that kind of sense of openness and transparency, we think, is something that we encourage our clients really to do. We've just done one of these reports for a client who's actually, again, a Scottish technology business, so they're also listening in today. And so I would urge you all to think about this as a starting point, and start small, and perhaps increase the level of openness and the level of detail that you aim for. So that's kind of probably all I want to say on that one, Esther, I think.
Okay, great. So I also wanted to say that if you are walking the walk on sustainability and you do feel like you're leading the way in your sector, and perhaps that there are certain practices within your sector or current policy that is holding you back from being greener than you could be, then another way you can use your communications is to call things out and start encouraging better questions. So I just wanted to highlight, this is a client of ours called Entrance, who are all about promoting transparency in the energy supply sector. So there's quite a lot of legal greenwashing that goes on in the energy supply sector. You're allowed to kind of claim that your supply is 100% renewable, when in fact, if it's coming from the grid, it's certainly going to have a mixture of fossil fuels in there. And they see their role as it's because it's an area that is relatively not very well known. They see that part of their role is educating the market and empowering customers to differentiate between ethical and less ethical choices. And these are, for example, some blog posts that we've written for them, which explains the issue to consumers, because we're not all there, I think. And if you're in a situation where you have very strong a very strong agenda that could further the cause in terms of greenwashing, and you feel like there are some obstacles that are holding you back in terms of customer awareness, and then that's the way to go. So I'd encourage you to check out Entrance if your kind of 100% renewable claims are something that's worrying you. I would encourage you to get in touch with them and have a chat, because they can help you gain a bit more transparency in that area.